Thomas Hardy was born in 2nd June 1840 and died in 11th January 1928. He was an English novelist and poet, a Victorian realist in the tradition of George Eliot. He was influenced both in his novels and in his poetry by Romanticism, especially William Wordsworth. Charles Dickens was another important influence. Like Dickens, he was highly critical of much in Victorian society, though Hardy focused more on a declining rural society. While Thomas Hardy wrote poetry throughout his life and regarded him primarily as a poet, his first collection was not published until 1898. Initially, therefore, he gained fame as the author of novels, including Far from the Madding Crowd, The Mayor of Casterbridge, Tales of the D'Urberville, and Judd the Obscure. However, beginning in the 1950s, Hardy has been recognized as a major poet. He had a significant influence on the movement poets of the 1950s and 1960s, including Philip Larkin. Most of his fiction works, initially published as authors in magazines, were set in the semi-fiction region of Wessex. They explored tragic characters struggled against their passion and social circumstances. Hardy's success is based on the medieval Anglo-Saxon kingdom and eventually came to include the counties of Dorset and much of Berkshire in southwest and south-central England.
The man he killed. Had he and I but met by some old ancient inn, we should have sat us down to wet, write many a napkin, but range us infantry, and staring face to face, I shot at him as he at me, and killed him in his place. I shot him dead because he was my fault. Just so, my fault of course he was. That's clear enough. Love, he thought, he did least, perhaps offhand like, just as I was out of work, had sold his traps. No other reason why, yes. Quaint and curious word is, you shoot a fellow down with a tree, if made where any bar is, or help to have a crime.
The Man He Killed was written in 1902 by Thomas Hardy, an English Victorian poet and writer of fiction. The poem, in the form of a dramatic monologue, is a wonderful example of Hardy's belief in meliorism and his anti-war sentiments. The poem is spoken in first person, using a young soldier as the speaker. To summarize, the speaker is attempting to explain to others and to himself why he killed another soldier, one from the opposing side. Of Hardy's poems, including this one, reflect Hardy's belief in meliorism. Minorists believe that society is constantly improving, but only through man's efforts. He felt that either there was not God to save us, or if there were a supreme being, he did not concern himself about man's fate. In other words, we had to save ourselves by helping one another and by being kind to all our fellow creatures. Hardy was very concerned with man's inhumanity to man, and he felt that war was the ultimate form of this, being planned, organized inhumanity. The poem specially addressed the Boer War, which Hardy was vehemently against. The Boer War took place in South Africa, which was largely populated by Dutch farmers. Great Britain was in possession of land surrounding the Boers. When gold and diamonds were discovered in the Boers' land, however, Britain designed the area, and the Boer War ensued. The man he killed basically tells the story of a young soldier who offhandedly enlisted into the infantry because he needs the salary. He does not fight for some lofty patriotic reason or because he believes in the cause. After killing his boy, he pondered if perhaps the other young men entered the army for similar reasons. In the first stanza, he explained that had he and the other soldier met under different circumstances, they would probably be buying each other pins in a pub instead of trying to kill each other. Then in the third stanza, the poem makes it obvious that the speaker understands the senselessness and futility of the war, yet he rationalized his killing of the man. And the last stanza sums up the speaker's views on the whole incident. Most of Hardy's poems are pessimistic, reflecting the dark side of man, especially his capacity for violence and cruelty, and this poem is no exception. In fact, the man he killed is probably one of the poem's most disturbing set of verses. It forces the reader to examine the brutality and inhumanity of war, and to ponder how humans are often victims of sheer circumstance and fate.